Hi everyone and welcome to 3-Minute Racket Reviews. Today's racket is the Babolat Pure Drive Team. In terms of the ground strokes, I'd give this an 8.5 out of 10. I think relative to its predecessor, it does lack a little bit of plow and heft in the upper hoop, so there is definitely a need to add some weight there to provide a little bit more stability and heft. But in general, you'll definitely find easy access to spin and power, as is to be expected with a 100-inch Pure Drive. Moving on to the net play, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I think it does suffer in regards to maneuverability, and there is a little bit of lack of stability in the upper hoop. So if you really are trying to hit a ball outside of the sweet spot, it might flutter on you a little bit, let's say on a stretch volley. But in general, the response is typical for that of a pure drive at the net. Moving on to the serving, I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. I think this is a really versatile serving frame. It has a lot of power, spin, and a fair amount of directional control. One of the reasons why people prefer pure drives across all playing levels is the reliability it provides on serve. Moving on to power, I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. I think it's one of the more powerful frames that I've used for its static weight. Sort of a hallmark of this pure drive beam design is the way that it explodes off the string bed and doesn't really flex much. Sort of a stiff, boardy response is typically the adjective we hear used to classify that sensation. In regards to control, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I think it is slightly less controlled than its predecessor, but that might just come down to the static weight and the lack of heft in the upper hoop. In regards to spin, I'd give this a 9 out of 10. It's got a great mid to high spin window, sort of launch angle, and the way that it explodes off the string bed instills a lot of confidence in being able to swing out of the ball, especially if you have more of a whippy swinging mechanic, stroke mechanic, something that brushes up a lot behind the ball. Moving on to the stability, I'd rate this really high as a 9 out of 10. For its static weight, it's an exceptionally stable frame, but there are some instances where it does flutter, like on off-center hits with stretch volley, or let's say a defensive slice or defensive open stance backhand. In regards to the comfort, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I think it is less plush than its prior iteration, and that just comes down to the lack of weight, but this is to be expected from Babolat frames. Let's be honest. These are some of the earlier ones that have a very harsh and raw sensation. You should just come to expect that this is what you're going to get if you want to go ahead and try this hitting experience. In regards to the flex profile, this one doesn't flex much, but I do feel a little bit of a bend in the upper yoke when I really go for a ground stroke. So long as there's a lot of racket head speed, you can feel that racket bend a little bit upon impact. In terms of touch, I'd give this a 7 out of 10. I think the string bed is fairly good in terms of sensing where the ball is, but there are some hot spots and dead spots that for me make it a little bit unreliable on a touch volley or a drop shot. Onto our will it lead category, I think this definitely works for somebody that's looking for forgiveness, power, and spin. Just know that you're not going to get much of a comfortable, flexible, or responsive playing experience using this type of frame. Lastly, onto the cosmetics, I think this gets an 8 out of 10. Really simple, clean color blocking, and that sort of spray paint effect looks great and has a classic timeless element to it because it's applied so tastefully. Thanks everybody for tuning into this racket review. We'll see you in the next one.